Make that two. 2 days in a row where I have a slow start. I just got through telling a 15-minute story, personal story, and it wasn't recording. Yesterday, I left the mic over here for about a good 10 minutes and you couldn't hear me. How's everyone doing? I hope you guys had a wonderful Tuesday, beginning of the week, hitting hump day tomorrow. You guys are relaxing, doing your thing. So, I'm gonna tell this story all over again because it's one of the coolest stories and it has to do with cops. Now, I am one of those people that are for cops. Just because you have a percentage of them that really give them a bad name doesn't make them bad. Like I had mentioned many times, my former best friend, who was almost like a brother to me at some points, his father was a cop, and his father was the kind of cop that other cops feared. So, I had an immense respect for him because he was cool as hell, and he had the by far the coolest autograph collection I still have ever seen to this date. I mean, a wall, two, just filled with baseballs signed by every single athlete you could think of, baseball player, boxer, basketball player, you name it. But they weren't in ultraviolet protectors, so some of them were fading, and so I hope I'm pretty sure he got those taken care of. But man, and then when cops, are cops, they could work side jobs like security. So he was. This is around the time we're barely like getting the Avs, and the Avs are starting. We got Patrick Waugh, we're winning the Stanley Cup, like all that stuff. And there's a hockey fanatic, so takes us to the hockey games. Getting to see where they film on ice. Then he took us. He got us tickets to go see Michael Jordan play, which was just a dream come true. He knew I was a huge Jordan fan, and his son and me, our birthdays are only 6 days apart. And so, yeah, we went to go see Michael Jordan play, and that was just fucking sweet. So, I never had a thing against cops. But, like I said, there are those percentages that are, fucking assholes. What I'm going to show you and the story that I'm going to be telling you, almost kind of go hand in hand. So, I mentioned many times on here that in the 7th grade, I got hurt really, really bad on my leg. And I sued Denver Public School System. My mom immediately threw those in mutual funds. And she's like, you know what? I don't want you to know what it's like just to buy whatever you want without really knowing how to earn it. So, you're going to work. So, there's nothing wrong with an honest job, whether it's flipping burgers or whatever. I didn't have to do that. I had mentioned previous times too on other videos. She was a natural born citizen, but lived her life in Mexico. Then she came back to the United States, and learned how to speak English. Went to Denver University, graduated, worked for 2 governors, then worked for IBM, which was a huge deal back in the day. And then went on to work for a nonprofit organization working with, Mothers on TANF, which is basically welfare, helping with the homeless problem, and vocational training for a lot of people with disabilities, which I got into after I left the music industry and before I got into acting. So she had a lot of good job connections, and one of the first jobs that I had was working for Wells Fargo Bank, and I worked at a 10 key by touch coding machine where we would get dropped off. This is before debit cards were just readily available everywhere. So just getting batches and batches of checks, and we're just doing these checks like lightning fast on these 10 key by touch machines, and you get real good at it after a while. Just like typing on a keyboard, you get really good by 10 key by touch. So that was my first job, My second job was working at Agilent Technologies, doing purchase orders for Raytheon and Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin and Boeing and NASA and all this stuff, and then changing out server tapes, which were way different back in the day. I just remember walking into cold ass rooms. Anyways, um, out of that work, I learned how to appreciate making your money and all that. But of course, she wasn't completely going to deny me the thing, necessities, and so I went all out and I said, for my first car, I'll just lease it. I don't want to be tied into it for the rest of my life. I decided to lease. Mind you, I was 16, 17 years old. I think probably 17. Um, Same height that I am now, about 6'4", 6'4" and a half. Uh, but ever expanding like the universe, outwardly. No, I was still pretty goddamn big. This is after I fractured my back and decided to stop playing football, and that's when the private school decided that maybe it'd be best I go to another school. So this is where I met, you know, friends that would last forever, a lifetime. Um, with the exception of the best friend that I considered my brother, who is now former. But anyways, um, we all decide, hey, let's go visit some of our friends, at a God, and I forget the name of it, but it's a college town in Greeley. You have in Fort Collins, CSU. In Greeley, you have the University of Northern Colorado, UNC. So a lot of our friends went to UNC. It was more like a Division II college. No football team. I know they had a basketball team and some women programs, but that's where all our buddies, the majority of our buddies went. And at this time, like I've said many times, this is when I bought alcohol. I could buy alcohol. Just that I don't ever remember getting carded. And there was one liquor store I went to so often. The guy from India would give me get a brown paper bag and throw tons of shooters in there, like apple puckers and all this other, they weren't hardcore shooters, but like all these shooters in there when I'm buying kegs and this and that. But for this adventure, you know, I said, okay, I got this beautiful brand new 19, I'm 17, it's 1997. One of the first purchases I made with that money that I got was a cell phone that I had in 1995, 96. Not a lot of cell phones are out back then. You got to remember this. This was pagers. And so, have a cell phone. I have this brand new 1998 Chevy Blazer. 4-door, midnight blue, leather interior, gray, just absolutely beautiful. And we stock up with 18 packs, 12 packs, you name it, in the back. Because we don't know, kids are pretty stingy at that age with, their brew. So we wanted to make sure that we're going up there. And anytime I went in to buy liquor somewhere, regardless if I, achieved or not, which I rarely did not achieve, you still run into that risk of, can I see your ID, and then your SOL without alcohol. So on our way up there, we're listening to this song, and we're like, mind you, we're idiots, 17 years old, not using our heads. It's raining really heavy. We're thinking, okay, with the downpour rain, the cops aren't going to be looking for swerving cars. So we're like, every time the chorus comes on, we'll chug a full beer. That's what we did. Now, for those of you that live in Colorado, there's an exit, and I forget what exit you take, but it'll let you pass through Brighton, Fort Lupton, Platteville, and then to Greeley, instead of taking I-25, which is more, it's an interstate and it's more heavily patrolled. This is kind of out there in farmland, so, we needed to pull over and use the restroom. So, pulled over into, this cornfield, and not too far in, about 100 yards in, but it's like pitch black out there. And I pulled in way too close to the side to the irrigation ditch. So close, in fact, that the first person to get out just ate shit when they got out, just fell down. The second one is like trying to hold on and get around. And they're standing nearly on the side of it. And then I start hearing it sliding, like if it's going to slide down. And I look over, and you guys know how it is when you're full bladder, mid piss, and you have to stop. I didn't care. My car prior to that was a manual, Eclipse that, had a rockin' stereo system, but, it was a manual 4-cylinder. I went in this car and they explained, 4 high, 4 low, this and that. For when it snows, I put that bitch in 4 low, and it just got out of there like it was nothing. I was like, oh, thank you, God. Maybe this should be a lesson. So I stopped drinking right there. Got us to the University of Northern Colorado. Now, all my boys getting drunk, having the time of their lives, make it to this party where it looks like a dorm/apartment. The reason why I say slash apartment, because there's like 40-year-old dudes partying with like 17, 18-year-olds. And my whole thinking has always been, and it's still somewhat my thinking, I have to admit this, I'm sorry, but I always put looks over personality when it came to somebody liking me, a woman liking me. I thought, okay, since I'm this big fat ass, who just got through playing football, who just, had a hairline fracture in their spine, who told the private school that he was going to after he gets letters of intent that, he doesn't want to risk playing football for getting, seriously injured. Oh, well, then we recommend you go somewhere else. What a Christian school you are, whatever. But where I went, made lifelong friends. So, as I'm standing there, not really drinking, like I said, I had, after that experience, I'm, sobering up because the nights, that happened like at 7:38, p.m. This is like 2 p.m. or 2 a.m., excuse me. This girl just comes up to me and starts making out with me, and I'm like, I'm not going to stop this. She's a hottie. I have, I always used to say, the kind of girls I date, we're always under a certain weight limit. And even my best friend, I had 2 best friends. One that I consider like my brother, who's former. And then my best friend, she actually stood up in my wedding as a groomswoman. And she'd often run interference for me. Telling girls like, oh, he only likes like really pretty girls. And she was a very beautiful girl. But I don't care what people say. If they say, oh, guy and girl can't be friends, that's fucking bullshit. Her and I have been drunk together so many times around one another. Nothing remotely close. Nothing whatsoever. Just a hug. I love you. Have a good night. Be careful. Be safe. That's it. No hand holding. Except for one time that she said that there was, really good drink deals at this bar. We go into the bar. I see my coworker. She grabs my hand like she's holding it like we're a couple. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, look around. And then I go up to my coworker. I'm like, hey, what's up? And I look around, and it's a gay bar. I'm like, did you really just bring me to a gay bar? I'm like, and then I could see the uncomfortableness in my, former coworker's eyes. And I'm like, dude, I already knew. No big deal. I'm like, I'm not. I said, my friend here said they had good drink deals. So this is before a concert. That's a whole other story. Anyways, so, friends were always like, oh, you need to hook me up with her or whatever, or blah, blah, this and that. I'm like, if you want to hook up with her, you try to hook up with her. I'm not going to hook you up. I'm not jealous or anything, but hey, you put in the effort. But yeah, she'd run that interference for me. So I had a certain type, why am I going to, add to the weight? Is how I always used to look at it. So I used to like, girls that were slender. And this girl was, nice and fit. And I'm like shocked that she's just like kissing up all up on me. She wasn't that intoxicated. I wasn't that intoxicated. So I'm like, hell yeah, this night's going great. We avoided disaster from a car rolling over, possibly almost killing two friends. We made it to this party where everybody seems pretty cool. This girl's insinuating that she wants to take a pass, just as making out. What's next? So along comes some little white crackhead. Never seen this person before. And one of my boys is like, he knows where there's another party's at that's even bigger, this and that, and it's at a house, blah blah blah. And I'm like, all right, let's go, because this is at an apartment, waiting for the cops to come at any moment. So we all bail out. So it started off as 5 people in my car. We ended up picking up 5 more. I know it's very dangerous, but the girl, like I said, she was, fit, and she was probably like maybe 5'2". She sat across, me sideways. Jesus Christ, man! These people down the street. Then my boy, sitting right, beside me in the passenger. I think he had a girl on his lap. Same thing in the back. And then in the very, very back, there were a couple others. So I think in total I had like 10 people in the car. Almost every one of them, with the exception of the girl on my lap and myself, had a red Solo cup. And we still have beer in the trunk, mind you. And the trunk is open. You know how like a SUV is. The trunk is open. You could go back and grab a beer if you wanted. And it's dark up there. I have no idea where the hell I'm going. Mind you, the cell phone is only good for making calls at this point. I don't even think there was texting, invented yet. But he's like, go this way, turn right here, turn right there. And then, we finally see it. It was known by name. I don't know if it's still around and known by that name, so I don't want to like give it a shout out and like, whatever. But I see it down the street, and there's like the brush covering this sign. I know it's a stop sign, but it's a 3-way stop sign because, there's row houses right here. There's a street right here. Then there's a house. Turn right there. And then there's, more streets to turn, down for, because it's kind of like, I guess, the suburbs of Greeley. He's like, yeah, you go down this way. I'm looking at it, and mind you, it's really, really dark. I'm like, are you sure? Because that street looks narrow as shit. He's like, yeah, just go this way, and we can see the party and everything. So I turn right. I start noticing all the cars are facing one direction. All of a sudden, boom. Cop lights kick on. I'm like, oh, fuck. I've been pulled over once for speeding, let go with a warning. What the hell am I going to do with this now? So I stop and I say to my friends, they're going to call for backup, and each and every one of us is going to get some type of something with the alcohol in here. I'm like, I'm going to open every door. You guys take off in different directions. They're not going to chase you guys. And sure as shit, I open every door, pop the trunk, boom. Everybody takes off in different directions. Now, I'm always kind of respectable with cops unless you're like coming at me like with a very asshole-like attitude. And he comes up and he's like, oh, what good friends you really have there. I'm like, well, you don't know the full story. So yeah, they're actually really great friends. Oh, okay. So he goes into my car. God, it smells like a brewery factory in here. I wonder what your parents would think, or he says, I wonder what your mom and dad would think. if their car's smelling like this. I'm like, well, I don't know what my dad would think because I don't talk to him often, and my mom would probably be very disappointed, but the car doesn't belong to her. It's my car. Oh, really? This is your car? Like, you bought it, you make payments? I'm like, what? What? Just the fact that and I would always, this was back then, and I'm like, what is it shocking that, a Hispanic who doesn't do drugs could afford a car? And he was like, oh, well, what's with the attitude? I'm like, you tell me. And I'm like, you're implying and you're jumping to conclusions with no basis. I'm like, so, and I don't know the law. I'm not citing any laws or standards or whatever. And so he's like, well, yeah, you definitely have a mouth on you. And they're looking through the car. I'm like, why are you looking through the car? And they had reason to. I mean, obviously, there's alcohol in there. So they go and they grab all the beer, and I'm like, I'll buy some when I get back, whatever. But my cell phone, because I had a cell phone in about 1994, 95, and like I said, those, I mean, these things didn't text at that time. My wallet with my money and everything is all in the car. And so you have driver's license and insurance, and they grab it from the car. And they're not let. I'm like, can I get my stuff? They're like, we'll get to that. And so then they handcuff me. I'm like, fuck. And again, I can't fight this because I know exactly why. And they're, well, no, they didn't handcuff me yet, excuse me. They're like, we'd like to do a field sobriety test. Now, one thing, and I'm not going to say it's an advantage, but where I got hurt, let's see if I could take a quick picture and then I'll show you guys this way. Probably turn on flash. I guess I don't know how to turn it on. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is the best one I'm gonna be able to show you guys. It looks pretty awful, but that's the injury that occurred to me. I'm not gonna describe it in full detail because it's pretty nasty and. Ugh. But the first skin graft didn't take. It just rotted off black. Second skin graft took. So that happened second day of seventh grade. I didn't get my money till I was a sophomore. So one of my first purchases was I know my first four purchases: PlayStation, one, TV, a cell phone, and some clothes. And then that's when, my generosity, I'm giving, bought my brother a new car. Not like a really expensive one, a Geo Prism, remember back then, but a four-door one. Giving money here or there, everywhere, but the rest, was in mutual funds. And then I'd lease this Blazer. But, anyways, the reason why I showed the leg scar and all that is they're like, oh, can you do these field sobriety tests? I'm like, yeah, because a lot of even while playing football with that injury happening in the seventh grade. Yeah, I didn't go to the summer camps or fall camps or anything like that. But by the time I was a freshman, it was healed. But I still maintained rehab, and it was very my rehab had a lot to do with standing on one leg, walking in straight lines, doing all that. So I passed the field sobriety test until, and this is my thinking. He's like, okay, well, you did, well on the test that I gave you, but, um, I still have to, by law, take your your breathalyzer or a sample of your blood at the nearest fire station. And my thinking, I doubt this is true or not, but I thought, well, maybe if they do it at the fire station, maybe that'll give time, my body time to produce, to get the alcohol out of my system from sweating and, whatever. So I'm like, yeah, fire station. He's like, okay. So he's like, wait right here. He's like, and we're having your car towed, by the way. And mind you, this is a college town. There's one tow yard. I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, and I can't have any of my possessions from my car. Nope. I'm just being a dick. They could have put my, in a bag, whatever. But because I was being a sarcastic asshole, so he was doing the thing right back. So I'm like, fucking son of a bitch, what am I going to do, And he has me standing right next to the cop car. And he's talking to, like, the tow truck driver, his buddy, this and that. Another cruiser that came along. I'm like, fuck this. So, and I'm a big guy, mind you. I'm at 325 pounds, 6'4". They didn't, like, what they call, like, double cuff you, when they have, like, big guys. I see, like, sometimes they'll double cuff them to give them more room. He didn't do that. But I go up to the, cruiser that I knew he was going to take me in, and I opened the door and I sat down. He's like, oh, well, aren't you just a Houdini? And I'm like, maybe you're used to standing. And I just used it as an excuse. I'm like, but my leg's kind of hurting. So, yeah, I decided to sit. I don't know how much longer you're going to wait to take me to the police station. I'm like, but take your time. So on the cruiser, we started bonding. I'm like, you're new, aren't you? I'm like, you picked this job because I bet you used to get picked on constantly. I said, I'm one of those guys that I totally hate bullies, so I know where you're coming from, man. I'm like, but I'm not the type of guy you need to act like a dick with. He starts laughing. And more or less, he ended up being really cool. And I felt bad that I was being an asshole, but by this point, he couldn't go retrieve my things. I'm sure he could have, but he wasn't going to. So we got to the fire station. They took my blood. He's like, well, I can't let you go, but I'm going to take you to the drunk tank. And I'm like, fuck, I'm going to go to jail. Nope. He takes me to where you sober up. And at the time, I had my tongue pierced, that pierced, my eyebrow pierced, 2 piercings on each ear. And I'm taking them all off, and I'm like, shit, my tongue's going to close, this is going to close. And while the tongue piercing had its advantages, it had its disadvantages because it fucked up my teeth. Excuse my language. But walking in there, I was shocked. They had like a buffet of like Nutri-Grain bars and, all these different types of drinks and all these different types of, just like carb-like foods to, get the alcohol out of your system. And it's like 3 a.m. And they're like, well, when you, blow a zero, you're free to go. And so I'm like just sitting there. I happen to pass out. I'm like just tired. Fall asleep. I wake up like at 8 in the morning. And they call my name. They're like, can you blow? I'm like, blow what? Because I'm pissed. And they put it up to me and they're like, okay, keep on going. And it's a 0. And I'm like, all right, you're good to go. There's a reason why they called me, but they didn't tell me. I walk outside. There's my car and my original 5 friends that were there. Nobody else that we had taken in the car that night besides them. And they're all there. Some of them look tired, but they're all smiling. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, who got the car out? They're like, we all did. I'm like, oh, you guys didn't have to come up with, like, go pitch in. They're like, we didn't. I'm like, what do you mean? They said, for the rest of the night, we went to every dormitory, knocked on the door, and asked for donations. I'm like, you guys are shitting me. And they're like, no. They're like, and they pull out some money, and they're like, and we have money left over after we got your car out of the impound. You know, they let me drive it here. And one of them was very close to me. He knew all my information and everything. And so, like, yeah, they let me drive it here. I'm like, you guys are fucking amazing. You guys are awesome. That is like the coolest thing ever. They're like, so let's get the hell back to Denver, which is like a 45-minute drive. Let's get some rest and we already have a party set up for tonight. Very next night, I'm drinking and driving again. Yeah, goes to show you how much I learned. But you know what? I didn't have to contact my mother till one day, sitting at work at Agilent, feeling guilty as all hell, and I tell her what happened, and she, gets very, very upset. So that's why I say not all cops are assholes. And even though I was being an asshole, this cop was cool as hell. And if I wish I knew his name. So I'd say, thank you for, really being kind to an idiot. With that being said, here's a clip that I wanted to play. Is it this one? Right here.
I need your ID also, please, sir. Okay, I'm going to place you under arrest then.
You're not placing me under arrest. You have no right to ask for anything.
Come here. All right. Taser.
I was thinking, God, please. Oh shit! Sorry. I was thinking, God, please don't let him pull out his gun, because it seems like the gun. It says under constitutional law, like the gun is the very last thing you should ever be pulling out. And I thought he's gonna shoot him, but
he is under arrest. He's under arrest.
For what?
For trespassing and for disorderly conduct.
Public property, dip. Not disorderly.
Absolutely. When he's in front of the business, yelling everybody.
Public property.
you could tell right there he's trying to mute or change his lapel pin, camera.
He refused to give me his ID, which he's required to do.
For what?
So I could issue him a citation for trespassing.
It's not trespass.
Love it.
I need your ID also, please, sir.
Let's go through.
Okay, I'm going to place you under arrest then.
You're not placing me under arrest.
Come
You
here.
have no right to ask for anything.
Come here.
The cop trips.
All right. Taser.
Misses.
He is under arrest. He's under arrest.
For what?
For trespassing and for disorderly conduct.
Public property, dip. Not disorderly.
Absolutely. When he's in front of the business, yelling everybody.
Public property.
He refused to give me his ID, which he's required to do.
For what?
So I could issue him a citation for trespassing.
It's not trespass.
I need your ID.
Arguing with your sergeant like that. I hope that guy has been in some years, because if your sergeant's telling you over and over again, God, if I were that guy, I wish I were standing right there, and I'd just be like, and I'm sure the sergeant would be like, okay, go over there, guy, But see, for every bad cop, there are good ones. So next time you have a run-in for something very small, don't give them such a hard time, all right, guys? So that was one of my own original stories that I wanted to tell. It was a fun moment, funny moment, and a learning moment. And, just make your kids aware that things could have obviously ended up extraordinarily bad. But again, as teenagers, out of all of us, who hasn't done something just fucking stupid? And that's what we were doing. Just something fucking stupid. And, you know, there's no way to justify it, but the outcome of it was a memorable one and one I will never forget. So, thank you guys for listening to my first story. And, yeah, we'll go on with our regular scheduled programming. Until then, let me get to the screen. Peace.